Greetings and welcome back to Room 303 and our chats with Emily as we are calling our readings through the poetry of Emily Dickinson. We are using the Johnson edition and we turned out a poem 743, The Birds Reported from the South. Now, in this poem, we are talking again about Emily and that sense of alienation, that sense of separation. You guys will maybe remember when we played the same game when we did 679. Conscious am I in my chamber of a shapeless friend. He doth not attest by posture nor confirm by word. Neither place need I present him. Fit or courtesy, hospitable, intuition of his company. Presence is his furthest license. Neither he to me nor myself to him by assent forfeit probity. Weariness of him were quainter than monotony. Knew a particle of space's vast society. Neither if he visit other do he dwell, or nay, no I, but instinct esteem him immortality. This space between the two will for Emily be the space between Emily and usually her joy of summer, but in this poem she is in mourning. Now, why she is in mourning we will not discover in this poem. We can only speculate. One more time though, Emily is going to be talking about her feelings of dislocation, as we have commented. Our assumption is that you've been following our stuff at learnstrong.net. Down that left-hand side, Chats with Emily is our playlist. I'm hopeful you've worked through our set of introductory comments as well as the preceding 742 poems. We just finished with 742, Four Trees Upon a Solitary Acre. And if you've done that reading, then you know that Emily is constantly struggling with the question of theodicy. Why must there be such pain, such suffering, that even the thing I normally would enjoy, like a brand new summer, for all of the joy that that might bring, is somehow lost to me. And I have to somehow deal with the austere, it's a key word for this poem, nature of the world and of life. She'll say it this way. The birds reported from the south a news expressed to me, a spicy charge, my little posts. But I am deaf today. The flowers appealed, a timid throng. I reinforced the door. Go blossom to the bees, I said, and trouble me no more. The summer grace for notice strove. Remote her best array, the heart to stimulate the eye, refused too utterly. At length, a mourner like myself, she drew away austere. Her frosts to ponder. Then it was, I recollected her. She suffered me, for I had mourned. I offered her no word. My witness was the crape I bore. Her witness was her dead. Thenceforward we together dwelt. I never questioned her, our contract, a wiser sympathy. I can't help but read this final line and wonder if she might not have been channeling Coleridge's Rime of the Ancient Mariner, a text she knew well. And at the very end, you'll remember, we're told that the young man rises the morrow morn, wiser and sadder, and why it is often the case that those two things go together. We'll see a couple of poems that will remind us of sympathy. You'll remember it from 554 already. Notice she begins with the birds, not unusual for Emily. Reporting from the south that is to say, returning at the end of winter. In other words, this is the end of winter, and she's maybe responding to Shelley's Ode to the West Wind, if winter come, can spring be far behind? In other words, hurrah, we made it through the winter, and now we're ready for the spring and summer, and for how amazing it will be. A news, she says, express to me. We can't help but think of her famous, this is my letter to the world that never wrote to me, 441. And the simple news, she says, that nature gave with tender majesty. Here, notice, the news expressed to me, in other words, it was summertime, a spicy charge. Yea, my little posts. I'll remind you, we've said 172 poems, she uses the word little. But notice she goes to the present tense. I am deaf. Dash. Today, dash, notice today capitalized. The immediacy of this, right? It's as if she's speaking directly to you. Again, Chats with Emily, our playlist, right? For a reason, name that. Then she'll talk about the flowers, which she normally loves to talk about. The flowers appealed. Notice it was a timid throng. I reinforced the door. I'm not interested in seeing the flowers. Go blossom to the bees, I said. Back to, again, Chats with Emily. And trouble me, dash, no more, dash. In other words, I don't want to know that it is in fact summer and the flowers are all blooming. Whoa, Now, again, to this point, she hasn't yet told us that she's mourning. She just tells us, she has told us that she's deaf. She's deaf to it all. Notice today. The summer grace, again, grace in 54 of her poems used. For notice strove. It's almost as if summer is trying to say, tap her on the shoulder, say, hey, 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 notice me, notice me, notice me. Remote, again, to go with refused and then austere. Remote, her best array, the heart to stimulate the eye. In other words, it's as if she's saying, as far as the stimulation of her eye is concerned, right? To stimulate the eye, refused to utterly. In other words, there was nothing. There was nothing I could hear in the birds. There was nothing I could see in the flowers in summer. Nothing, none of it, at length. Maybe not a throwaway phrase. A mourner like myself, she drew away austere. Now, when we get to poem 807, we will come back to this use of the word austere. She only uses it in 2 more poems. And it will go this way. Expectation is contentment, gain satiety. But satiety, conviction of necessity, of an austere trait in pleasure, good, without alarm, is a too established fortune. Danger deepens some. S-U-M, right? And then when we get to 942, the only other time she uses the word austere. Snow beneath whose chilly softness some that never lay make their first repose this winter, I admonish thee. Blanket wealthier the neighbor, we so new bestow than thine acclimated creature. Wilt thou austere snow? So she here uses this word austere. At the end of summer, summer becomes a mourner, just like Emily has been. Notice her frosts are now what summer has to think about or ponder. Then it was, I recollected her. In other words, I wasn't ready to deal with summer until it was ended, it was over. Clearly, this mourning is something that is now sustainable. Again, we're back to the question of pain and suffering, the theodicy question. And she'll even use the word suffered. She suffered me, the word here almost like tolerated, for I had mourned. It almost seems as if the mourning is now over. Finally now winter has come and she can mourn no more. I offered her no word. In other words, I had nothing to say. My witness, by the way, witness is used, or some version of it, in 27 of her poems. I can't help but think of 465, I heard a fly buzz when I died. You'll remember she says the king be witnessed in the room. My witness, of course a religious term as well, Emily would know it as, not just a legal term. My witness was the crepe I bore. In other words, now summer's over and it's starting to get cold. Her witness was her dead. Well, obviously all the beautiful flowers are now dead. Thenceforward, dash, we, dash, together dwell. Again, there's a number of reasons why we named our series Chats with Emily. One of them is a poem and a line like this. In other words, Emily's always seeming to carry on a conversation. She even has conversations, or she doesn't, with the seasons, with summer and now into winter. However, they're together and they dwell. We can't help but read this in I dwell in possibilities, right? I never questioned her, our contract, a wiser sympathy. Again, the use of the word sympathy takes us back to 554. You'll remember when we saw this one before already. Just to remind you, the way she loves to use this, to use the word sympathy. The blackberry wears a thorn in his side, but no man heard him cry. He offers his berry just the same to partridge and to boy. He sometimes holds up on the fence or struggles to a tree or clasps with both his hands, but not for sympathy. We tell a hurt to cool it. This mourner to the sky a little further reaches instead, brave blackberry. We'll see this again in 1685 when we get to the end or near the end of our study, and we'll play the game this way. And we'll come back. We'll come back to our study here of this poem as we play the game as well. 1685. The butterfly obtains but little sympathy, though favorably mentioned in entomology. Because he travels freely and wears a proper coat, the circumspect are certain that he is dissolute. Had he the homely scrutin of modest industry, were fitter certifying for immortality. Now, again, that distancing that we started with in 679 also comes to mind. There is somehow a distancing, a separateness that can't be resolved so easily. And I think that's the point of the message at 2a. Sometimes that the only way is through. You'll remember this from our study of Dante's Divine Commedia. We don't go to hell, but rather through it. You got to get through some rough experiences in the life. At 2b, the point of the poem is fairly obvious. But why it is that Emily is in this distraught, austere frame of mind, we do not know. At 3a again, 679, that silence between Emily and Summer is similar to the silence between Emily and the presence in her chamber of that poem. Finding at 3b to own a poem like this, when was a time that you struggled to enjoy the good thing in your life simply because of the sadness in your life? I hope Emily's challenging you. Thank you.